Welcome to the Wow Factor Radio, Hoofbeat Horse News You Can Use. I am your host, Chris Garrett, and this week we are pleased to have as our guest Ed Dabney of Ed Dabney Gentle Horsemanship. Ed is a fifth-generation Wyoming horseman with a fascinating background in natural horsemanship that was developed from years in the ranching, motion picture, and training industries. And he has now become an internationally acclaimed clinician who has developed a unique blend of the classical with natural. Welcome to the show, Ed.
It's great to talk with you, Chris. Thanks for this opportunity.
Well, Ed, I know you've been to Europe recently, and before we talk about that, could you tell us a little about your philosophy of working with horses and some of the principles that you use when you relate to the horse?
Well, I like to help people build a bridge of communication between them and their horse to achieve respect, trust, and harmony on the ground and mounted. And there's this way of working with horses relates to a Bible verse, which sort of forms the basis of my training philosophy. It's from Job 12:7-10. It says, "Now ask the animals and let them teach you that in the Lord's hand is the life of every living thing and the breath of all mankind." I think if we work with our horses in that way, we'll be okay with them, and it'll be pleasing to the horse and the owner.
Well, that's some pretty powerful backing there. I have to agree with you. So how do your methods compare to the practices of other natural clinicians that are out there?
They may be similar in ways, but there's an emphasis on accuracy of movement. So I'm looking for a precise movement in the horse to move the particular body part in a very accurate and precise way, rather than just during the ground exercises moving this way and that way, any old way. I'm looking for precision in movement, and that's really done through the establishment of your leadership position with the horse that we'll talk about a little more as we go along. But then I think the other difference that maybe sets my program apart from other groundwork programs or other training programs is that I'm very particular about having the same cue on the ground as mounted. So really the groundwork is riding because we're using the same cues on the ground and mounted. So then when you're mounted, you're just changing locations. You're not asking anything new of the horse. So it's much more acceptable and understandable to the horse.
So it's not like retraining them depending on if you're on the ground or on the horse. That makes a lot of sense.
Right. And then the thing that really plays into all that is what I call the 3 C's, and that's care, communication, and consistency. And, of course, care means not only providing for your horse's basic physical needs and, feed and vets and, all that, but it also is attempting to understand the horse culture and see life from their perspective. And that's a big part of my program is working with the horse's nature, how the horse perceives us and the requests that we present to him. So it's about educating ourselves regarding the horse's instincts and social structure, respecting their concerns and appreciating how they perceive the world around them. If we're gonna bring horses into our human world of stalls and saddles and trailers and arenas and shows and all that, then it really is our responsibility to present all of our things to them in a way that they can understand and accept. And that sort of takes us to the next C, the second C, communication, which involves discovering how horses communicate with other horses and then using their own language to open this line of communication between the human and the horse. So we're employing techniques of visualization, body language, pressure and release, focused energy, expression, all these elements of communication that horses use with each other. They're very expressive. Every little thing means something, the blink of an eye and the flick of an ear. And we may never discover all the meaning of every little thing that they do, but I think we can understand enough of it to be able to present our basic requests to them in their language. So then it's really not training as much as it is just proper communication to them.
I have a question for you. You talk about expression. Do you think, in your opinion, do horses see the expression on our faces?
Oh, yes, there's no doubt that the horse is reading us. I mean, you could ask somebody, walking down the street in New York City that never been anywhere near a horse, and ask them, do you think a horse could tell if you were afraid, angry, impatient, these big emotions? And people just, I think, intuitively know that animals can read our emotional state. And especially a prey animal, as a horse, reads the emotions that we present to them. So, in fact, there's a good example of that, in that's the day you're late for the show is the day the horse decides not to get on the trailer. But every other day, or if you're not going anywhere and you're just practicing trailer loading, he just hops right on there. So why is it that day he's hard to catch in the pasture, or he won't get in the trailer? It's the emotion. I'm late. Everybody's waiting on me. We're going to be late for the show. Let's go. Let's get in the trailer. And so there's this huge cloud of emotion around the trailer, and the horse, senses that and says, "Whoa, something's going on here, and I better stay away from that area." If the horse can read the horse is reading our body language, and I think we've lost some of that body awareness in the last few decades, in that all our communication now is electronic, cell phones and emails and faxes and all that. So we've lost this awareness of our own body language and expression and focus. And yet that's where the horse lives. That's his language totally. So if it's his language, then he looks at us and expects that every little thing we do must mean something. So he's looking for the meaning in all that. And if he can read our big emotions, like impatience, anger, fear, frustration, then he must also have the ability to read our small emotions. So then we might as well use that. We might as well put an emotion out there that we want him to read, like back up, stop, go, turn left, turn right, whatever it is that we're asking the horse to do. That's your first cue, and that's his best communication from you is your thought, your communication. There was a monastic knight, a Spanish monk in the 10th century, and they were the ones who a lot of them that fought in the Crusades. The knights in Spain who were monks, they were monastic knights, and one of them quoted as saying, "We ride our horses by the transmission of our thoughts." And that's
it's been around a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This whole idea of natural horsemanship is very, very old, but that's not as mystic as it sounds, because the horses are already reading our thoughts. So we might as well use that to communicate with them, and that's really our best cue, is our total concentration to be in this moment with the horse. They are in the now creatures. They live right now. They don't spend any time regretting the past or worrying about the future like we do. So that'd be a life lesson we could learn from our horses.
And we do live in the future a lot, don't we? Always worrying. I think that's the American pastime, is worry. So, yeah.
But if we're in this moment with the horse, I mean, if we're asking the horse to do something and we're wondering what's for lunch, he's not going to get it nearly as quickly as he would as if we were totally concentrated on the movement that we're asking for the horse. So that's really our first cue to the horse.
That makes a lot of sense. So since we don't have ears that can twitch, at least most of us don't, they do read like our facial expression, a smile or a eye movement. They'll see that then, right?
They do, and that's why I don't recommend wearing sunglasses when you're with your horse. The horse needs to see that port of emotion from your eyes. They need to be able to read your thoughts, your emotions, your focus, and plus, horses don't know you have sunglasses on. When they look at some of the sunglasses, what they see is big eyes. And what do big eyes mean? to other horses.
Well, it'd be fear, I would imagine. That's something's wrong.
It means fear. So they're looking at their human leader and seeing big eyes and thinking, wow, my leader's afraid of something, so I wonder what it is. There must be something out here I should be scared of.
You know, I've never heard anyone, all the people I've talked to, the trainers, the people I've interviewed, you are the first to ever mention that, and I'll have to say it never, ever occurred to me. That's worth the price of admission right there. Thank you, Ed.
You're welcome.
That's great.
About the sunglasses, but
well, that's okay.
With your horse.
Oh, yeah, that makes so much sense that it just never occurred to me. That's excellent. Excellent. Okay. So let's see. We've got the two of the three C's. What was the third one?
The third C is consistency.
Consistency. I bet you have a lot of trouble with people with that, huh? That's our.
I do, but yeah. And there again is body awareness, to be consistent with what you're doing with your body. In other words, if the horse is reading every movement, every posture, every expression, then that means you want to do as little as possible with your body language. But what you do with your body should be very precise and deliberate, so that when you do something, it means something. So in other words, shouldn't be a lot of superfluous movements. Well, I'm fiddling with my rope, I'm trying to get myself organized. In all of that, if you're with your horse is looking at you, trying to figure out the cue to that. Okay, they're fiddling with their rope, but there must be some meaning in that. What are they asking me to do? And you're not even engaged at that moment with your horse, but your horse is observing you and looking for the answer to that cue. Well, as far as you're concerned, there is no cue because you hadn't done anything yet. But you're moving around a lot and fiddling with things, and your horse is watching you. So being aware that your horse is always observing and that the horse thinks that everything you do must mean something because everything he does means something, then that should give you more of a front-of-mind awareness of your own body and your emotions, your movements when you're in the vicinity with your horse. So then those movements should become very precise and deliberate so that they do mean something. So there's not a lot of static on the line. There's not a lot of noise going on. And then you say, well, I've been moving my arms around and doing all this, but now I want to move in a way that means something to you. So then how does the horse separate that from what you mean as a cue or if you're just fiddling with something? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see the dilemma there.
So consistency is the key to becoming the type of leader who's worthy of our horse's respect and trust. And so to be the leader means that you've got a lot of responsibilities. And your number one responsibility as a leader with your horse is to be confident and emotionally stable, never displaying any negative emotions directed towards your horse: anger, frustration, fear, confusion, violence of any sort. And you have the responsibility to set the rules for respectful behavior and always enforce those rules, to set high standards, high expectations for your horse's performance, but then give them everything you can to help them achieve those high standards. And then finally, and I think maybe even the most important, is your responsibility as a leader with your horse is to seek lightness in everything you do, a light response from your horse from a light request from you, because only in lightness is there dignity for the horse and the rider.
See, now you're talking like a classical dressage trainer.
Okay.
So, I love this. So is this what you teach at your clinics? Do you teach the lightness and the three C's that you're talking about? Is this the basis of your clinics?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I have a question for you, a personal question. I have a struggle with trusting my horse. What advice would you have for me?
Well, trust comes from respect. We can't trust a leader that we don't respect. And respect comes from establishing leadership. So you're establishing your leadership position first with the horse, so that then the horse respects you as a leader. And if they respect you as a leader, then they'll come to trust you. If you can become the type of leader who's worthy of your horse's respect and trust, you'll be amazed at the change in your horse's attitude and how much lighter and more responsive he becomes. If your horse knows that he has a confident, consistent leader, he'll be much more at peace with you and within himself. And
what if I'm the one who isn't the confident one? Do you have any advice on how I can change that in myself to become more confident with him?
Well, as you begin to do, and that's maybe what we're going to talk about as we go along here, the 6 keys to harmony are essential exercises that we teach the horse. That as you perform those, and it's a systematic program, it gives you something productive to do with your horse to establish this relationship. And as you see that your horse is taking instruction from you and allowing you to be the leader and allowing you to make the decisions about speed and direction, which is what the leader does in the herd, then you begin to build confidence to say, hey, this horse is listening to me, he's responding to me lightly, he's moving in all the ways that I'm asking him to move. So that's sort of the underlying benefit of the 6 keys to harmony, the exercises that we teach every horse and rider. They're good exercises in and of themselves mechanically because we're teaching the horse how to move in all the specific ways that we're going to ask them to move when we're mounted. Go forward, backward, sideways, move the front around the hind around the front, all that. But really the underlying benefit is the preparation for you to be, you and the horse, to be mentally, physically, emotionally prepared for a better ride. And that's what gives you the confidence to be with your horse, to know that you can direct the horse's movements. So then you mount up with that level of confidence, and then that goes directly into the horse and gives him confidence in you. So then the trust is going both ways, and that ensures a better ride, a safer, more productive.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. And I know you have a variety of training DVDs available, but the one that caught my eye was the 6 keys to harmony. And mostly because my impression from what I saw on your website was that it helps the trust both ways. I get along pretty well with my horse, but I know that injury is never far from my mind, and I don't totally trust him. But I haven't had a system like it looks like this is. I haven't seen that DVD yet, but could you describe what the 6 keys are and how those concepts benefit the horse and the rider?
Okay. Well, like I said, you establish your leadership position, you gain your horse's attention, you determine how he's responding to you. It helps the horse to be calm, thinking, and willing. It increases his coordination for precise and fluid movements. We're directing the horse on the ground with the same cues that we're going to use mounted. So it's beneficial in that it in doing these exercises, you don't do them just by routine every day, by recipe, the same way, in the same location or even in the same order every day. You're going to change things up, and what you're really seeking there is what I call a reduction of cues. How could you do less today and get a better performance from your horse than you got by doing more yesterday? In other words, you're always doing less than you think it'll take to get the job done, and then hopefully you're going to be pleasantly surprised by your horse that he actually did it with way less than you thought it would take to ask him to perform that movement. And that's where you're seeking lightness. So you're always offering lightness, and then that carries through to the saddle. And plus, if you have seen, and this is sort of where the classical equitation part of this comes in, is if you have seen the horse perform these movements on the ground that you're asking for, and the 6 keys are 6 essential exercises that we teach every horse, every horse and rider, which is backing. It's all the speed and direction control signals. Okay, so backing, forward, moving the front around the hind, turn on the haunches, moving the hind around the front, turn on the forehand, moving the ribs left and right, side passing. So we're teaching lateral work there as well, and then going, speeding up, slowing down and stopping, so all the speed control. So those are the mechanical parts of the 6 keys. But if you've seen your horse do these movements on the ground, then you know what the feet look like. You know what the body, the horse's feet look like in performing each movement. You know what their body position is. So then when you're in the saddle, you can visualize that so much better. So when you're asking the horse for a side pass or a turn on the forehand, turn on the haunches, a shoulder in, half pass, any of those movements, you've already seen it happen on the ground, and so you know what the feet are supposed to look like, the horse's feet, the foot placement. So then we're really riding at that point for refinement, precision, accuracy, and it's much easier for you to develop a feel, and that's really what one of the hardest things for any instructor to teach is to teach feel, but you're able to develop feel by seeing the horse do the exercises on the ground first, do all the movements on the ground, because then when you're in the saddle, you're visualizing the hoof placement and how the feet are moving, because you've already seen it on the ground. If you just hop on the horse and say, okay, now do a shoulder in, you're like, okay, now where are the feet supposed to go, and what's that going to look like, and how do I arrange the horse to accomplish this maneuver? It's just so much easier for you and the horse if it's taught and learned on the ground first. Then it's easy to carry it over to the saddle. Then you begin to develop feel, and you just feel the horse into it because you know what it's supposed to look like.
So in your 6 Keys to Harmony DVD, you show how to do this from the ground where you can actually see what it is that you're asking the horse to do?
Yes.
Is that right?
So all 6, it's a 90-minute professionally produced DVD, and all 6 exercises are shown performed on the ground and mounted. So you see the transfer over to the saddle, and I think that's a very important factor in the groundwork. If it doesn't relate to the mounted work, then there's really no practical application for it, or very little, I think. And so everything you do with your horse must have a practical application to the mounted work, or else it's done without understanding for the human or the horse. So the DVD shows all of that, as well as some other things, catching, haltering, leading, some real basic things. In fact, our first 2 shows that were on RFD TV were about just those simple things, and we had so much positive feedback from viewers that said, nobody ever showed me exactly how to put the halter on, or how to lead my horse, or how to catch my horse. Everybody starts, in the saddle. We're already riding. Well, you can't do any of that until you go out and catch your horse. Start with that, And so I like to be very practical and cover the fundamental, foundational education things with the horse and with the rider. And those are things that are fundamental to any discipline. No matter what outfit you're wearing or what outfit your horse is wearing, there's really, and as I've found in sort of blending natural horsemanship and classical equitation together, which, by the way, makes a wonderful marriage, whether you're English or Western, reining, cutting, dressage, venting, endurance, trail riding, whatever. These fundamental principles that are taught in the 6 Keys to Harmony cross all lines of discipline. And so even though my original background growing up was in Western riding, in the last few years I've become a student of classical equitation. And what I've is that it's basic, it's fundamental to all disciplines. So there's really no such thing as English riding or Western riding. There's only good riding and bad riding. So there's don't think of it as English, Western, show, trail, or whatever. There's no such thing as any of that that's particular to the horse. So it really all boils down to either good riding or bad riding. And I like to teach good riding.
Well, it sounds like you're doing just that. I know you've won some pretty impressive awards recently. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
That was the East Coast Trainer Challenge last summer and fall that I competed in and won that series of trainer challenges, which is basically colt starting, sort of a weekend colt starting challenge in several locations along the East Coast.
That sounds very exciting. I love the pictures on your website. Can you let our listeners know your website address so they can find the 6 Keys to Harmony and look at some of these pictures of you and the work that you do?
Yes, it's just simply www.eddabney.com.
That's simple.
EDDABNEY.
So EDDABNEY.com. Okay.
Right.
All right. Then for our listeners, you go look at the pictures. There's some photographs from your movie making. Now, I'd love to talk about that just a little bit. You've been in quite a few movies, and I believe you've played a lot of different types of roles when you do that. How long have you been doing the movies?
Oh, about 20 years.
20 years.
But just off and on. It's not a real occupation for me, but it's fun when the opportunity comes along. I enjoy doing that and just seeing, how they put a movie together and all the little tricks and everything. And it's a lot of fun writing and working with the movies. I just finished one last week, in fact, a new PBS television movie that'll be out in 2009. It's We Shall Remain, and it's set in the 1830s. It's about a family's experience through the Trail of Tears when the Cherokee people were moved out of the Georgia and Tennessee area. And I was the head wrangler on the movie. I was in charge of all the horseback riding scenes and supervised the horses and the actors that were riding them and gave riding instruction and provided or worked with the horses that were provided. Actually, it's interesting that the horses on that particular movie were provided by a friend and client of mine in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and the horses were Kiger Mustangs from the.
Oh, wow!
She adopts Mustangs from the Kiger Mountain Range in Oregon, and the producers of the movie particularly wanted to use Mustangs for the movie, so they arranged for her to provide the horses, and then I supervised the use of the horses in all the riding scenes there.
Well, that is exciting. What all kind of parts have you played? What kind of rider have you been?
Oh, I've been cowboys and cavalry soldiers. Actually, in this movie I just finished, I was also cast as the carriage driver, so I was doing that along with supervising the horse scenes. So most of them have been cowboys and cavalry soldiers. I worked on The Postman, which is kind of a futuristic movie, and it's sort of like Mad Max on horseback. Yeah. And I was one of the bad guys in that movie.
No, not you.
Oh, yeah.
You're known as a good guy.
It was fun to be completely different.
I'll bet it was. Okay, well, I have a question for you for all of the women in America. I know you were in The Patriot, and we all want to know, is Mel Gibson as good-looking in person as he is on film, or is it all makeup?
Well,
or do you dare say?
To me, he was just another guy. I don't see guys as being good-looking or not. I don't know.
Well, darn, let me talk to your wife then. I want to ask her.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Anyway, I'll bet that was a lot of fun, and the pictures on your website are just excellent. It really does look like a lot of fun. So anyway, I know, would this be a good time? Could we hear about your experience in Europe? I know you've been training over there, and I'll bet you've had a major impact over there. Can you tell us about that?
I really enjoyed my clinic tour over there. I did clinics in Finland, Sweden, and France, and it's just a great time over there. The people are so friendly and nice, and they're very welcoming and just eager to learn horsemanship and to do the right things with their horses. And they've invited me to come back this fall and spend more time and go to more cities and do clinics and help them with their horses. So I'm looking forward to that. We've also arranged with some really nice folks in western France, in Normandy, who have a beautiful 16th century castle there, chateau they call it.
Oh my!
That's never been open to the public, and now they are under my supervision opening it to guests to come there and stay. I'll be working with their horses and taking them through our program, and then the chateau property actually joins a 5,000-acre national forest, and you ride right out of the chateau onto the forest. And they've got 40 fine horses there that I'm going to go over and work with to kind of get them tuned up and ready to go on the trails, and then we'll begin to have guests come and stay at the chateau, which has been renovated but still historically accurate to the 15 and 1600s. It'll be an amazing opportunity to stay at a place that's never been open to the public and ride through the French countryside over there. So
wow.
There's more info on that opportunity on our website, and we're scheduling a trip for third week of September for folks to join us in France and ride over there. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
This is something our listeners could go do with you in France?
Yes, it is. Wow. I'll be there during that time, and we'll be guiding the rides, and we'll also be doing some clinic work, and private lessons are available with me during that week that folks are there at the chateau. So we'll work in the arena and do some of what we've already talked about, the 6 keys to harmony, and blending that with classical riding. So we'll do it as sort of a clinic opportunity, and then maybe the afternoons we'll spend riding out in the forest and the French countryside. And
that sounds wonderful.
The guests will be housed there in the chateau, and meals are all by French chefs, and it's going to be amazing.
Oh, I want to go. Oh, okay, so that our listeners can find that on eddabney.com, more information on that. Now, the people in Europe and France, do they ride with what we would call a Western saddle, a Western tack, and in a Western manner, or is that even? What do they do over there? I haven't been there.
Some do. Most are English riders. In fact, the majority of my clients in Europe and the United States are English riders, and they're doing eventing and dressage. But I have plenty of Western riders as well that are riding trails. And in Sweden and Finland, there are lots of English riders, but then there are plenty of folks that are just riding the trails in the countryside and using Western tack. And like one of the ranches that I did a clinic in Finland was specializes in reining, which was sort of interesting to me that they all were in Western tack and had quarter horses and were doing reining over there in Finland.
Well, that is interesting. I didn't know that. Now, I know that you have studied with and you're friends with Craig Stevens from the National School of Academic Equitation. He's one of our favorite guests here on the Wow Factor Radio. What a great sense of humor that fellow has. Now, is he working with you in Europe? I know he goes over quite a bit too.
Yes, he's been going over there for many years, and I've enjoyed studying with Craig and learning from him over the past number of years, and I had the opportunity to work alongside him in a clinic there in Sweden back in May, and that was a joy for me to be working alongside him in a complementary manner while continuing to study with him and learn from him. So he's definitely a master of classical riding and a good friend, and I appreciate.
He is just a delightful fellow. Yeah, we like him a lot. What kind of problems do you face when you're working with horses and their owners when you're blending these two schools of training, your gentle horsemanship approach and the classical equitation? Working
with the nature of the horse is so important in all of that. It really, in whether it's Western riding or classical riding, We want our horses to be soft and supple, light, straight, forward, calm, all those good things. So that applies to natural horsemanship or classical riding or Western or English, all of that. Working with the nature of the horse, how the horse learns. But as far as working with the humans and their horse, one of the hardest things I have to teach is for the human to learn to do nothing, so that they can just be quiet, and so when they do something, that it will mean something to the horse on the ground and mounted. We think we have to be making something happen all the time and working at it. Sometimes, or many times, less is more. If you just learn to be quiet, learn to do nothing, and just have this, we talked about earlier, having body awareness and a reduction of cues. And sometimes, if something's not working with your horse, you have a tendency to get louder and heavier with them. And then they'll just kind of shut down and close it off, and they'll say, no, that's too loud, that's too heavy for me, I can't listen to that. Where if instead of thinking, well, you stupid horse, you stubborn horse, why don't you get this? I want to encourage people to turn that back on themselves and say, well, if my horse isn't getting it, if it isn't working, what am I doing wrong? What could I do better? How could I be more clear in my communication? How could I be lighter? It's the subtle things, the quiet things that the horse listens to, not the big, loud, heavy things. So if it's not working, instead of turning the volume up, turn it down. Turn it way down to just a very subtle approach with the horse, so that the horse is curious and interested, rather than being yelled at and sort of blocks all that out. So it's a human tendency to crank it up. Well, if they're not getting it, then I need to be louder. I need to be bigger, heavier, stronger. No, it doesn't work that way with horses. Really, if they're not getting it, you need to be quieter. You need to approach it in a different way, and ask yourself, what could I do? How could I be more creative with this and more clear in my approach to the horse, and quieter. So it's hard to do.
I can see where that'd be a challenge, because that is just the opposite of what our human brains want to do. And we, like you said at the very beginning, we need to learn the language of the horse. So that's good advice.
Well, for any horse, really, to be respectful, supple, light, straight, forward, calm, all of those great qualities that we want in the horse. And yet, I see a lot of imbalance in horsemanship today. You may have a great blue ribbon winning show horse or a really solid trail horse, and yet on the ground that same horse is dragging its owner around on the lead rope, barging into their space. They're hard to catch, hard to load in the trailer. They won't stand still when you're mounting. They hold their head way up high when you're trying to put the bridle on. All these things. They're amounts to kind of a disrespectful horse. So it doesn't have to be that way. But a lot of people just tend to make excuses for their horse, and they say, oh, well, it's okay. He's just like that, and it's all right. We get along, And so they just do whatever it takes just to get along with their horse. But it doesn't have to be that way. The horse can be polite and respectful and dependable and safe to be around. This is all for fun, isn't it? This is a recreational
supposed to be, yes.
pursuit, really.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't have to be anxious about going to the barn and worried about your horse is going to run over you or step on you or drag you around. If there's fear or anxiety there, then you have to ask yourself, well, wait a minute, this is all supposed to be for fun. It's supposed to be for my relaxation, my enjoyment. So then something's wrong with that picture. So let's fix it. Let's teach the horse how to be respectful and polite and quiet and calm. And it can be done. You don't have to.
Have you ever met a horse you couldn't train?
No, I've never had one flunk out. But one thing that's important to me, and I take horses for training here at our facility. A lot of people think that a problem issue with the horse is a training issue, and it may be, but before we would just assume that it's a training issue, I have a team of specialists that evaluate the horse for any type of medical or pain issues. And sometimes what you think might be a training issue, bucking or rearing up, is the horse just trying to tell you, hey, I'm hurting. And so we want to discover and treat or rule out any type of pain issues before we begin a training program. So that would be something that I would suggest to listeners, is to not assume that everything's a training issue. And then a lot of problem issues actually have their root in dental issues. So they're having a full dental exam by an equine dentist annually is very important. So I've seen horses that are bucking or rearing up or running off, or whatever, and then you treat the dental problems and the horse is fine. So,
that makes a lot of sense. Dental and chiropractic, both. I'll bet you.
Chiropractic. We have a chiropractor, equine massage therapist, equine dentist, a real good equine vet, a professional farrier. All of these specialists coming together to evaluate the horse and to treat the horse. So I really believe in a full range of treatment for the horse to make sure that there are no pain issues there before we begin a training program. So that's good advice. That should be a consideration.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. That's good advice. Now, with all your popularity, I know you're very sought after on the East Coast, and you've won this championship title. And now, how do you manage your touring schedule, clinics abroad, running a training facility, making movies, and your family? How do you do this?
Well, lots of prayer and very supportive wife. My wife Colleen, and pretty much runs the ranch here when I'm gone, and takes care of the business and all that. So she really does a great job with all that. And then I have 4 daughters, and which are still at home. The 2 younger ones are at home, and they are both in their own right excellent riders and trainers. In fact, my youngest daughter has already done clinics of her own in which she actually had larger attendance at a couple of her clinics than I've had at some of mine, which is humbling, but I'm really proud of her. And that's Elizabeth, and she has an excellent way with horses, and she teaches all of our youth lessons here at the ranch. And then 20-year-old daughter, Madeline, is going to accompany me to Europe in August and September, and she'll be assisting me with clinics and with the training of the horses there at the chateau in France. So
what a fabulous opportunity.
It's great to have my family involved, and my daughters sort of following in my footsteps. And then we just have an excellent staff here at the ranch of trainers and folks that work here and kind of keep everything going when I'm gone.
Where is your ranch?
We're located about 40 miles east of Atlanta. I moved to the Atlanta area about 6 years ago from Wyoming.
It must seem very green there from being from Wyoming.
Yeah. I've sort of escaped the Wyoming winters. But, I guess I traded those for the Georgia summers.
Yeah.
But it's nice here. We like it. But I miss Wyoming. I miss the wide open spaces and the mountains. I don't miss the winters. But the summers in Wyoming are great, both weeks.
Yeah, I live in Colorado, so I know what you're talking about. Although I think we have a little bit more warmth and a few more sunny days than Wyoming does. But anyway, so tell me, what's the biggest challenge you've ever faced while on horseback?
Oh, well, I've had lots of adventures in the mountains in Wyoming and on movie sets doing particular things with horses. So I don't know if it would be rugged trails and jumping over bombs going off. There was a scene in The Patriot, and they asked, does anybody have a horse that would jump over a bomb going off and ride through it? And of course, I threw my hand up and said, sure, I've got a horse that'll do that. And so it was a ground charge that would look like a cannon firing and then blowing up, and they wanted a horse to be over the top of the explosion when it went off. And so we jumped the bomb. Of course, it's just peat moss and pieces of cork, but it looks like the earth, dirt flying up. But and just as my horse's belly went over the top of it, they set it off, and it blew up under us. And of course, there was a lot of chaos and everything going on anyway, so my horse was okay with it. But I was picking peat moss out of my ears and everything for a week after that.
Oh my! Did you stay on? You stayed on the horse? Yeah. Oh wow! You're a brave man. I'm not so sure I'd be able to do something like that. Wow, what an adventure! That's exciting.
Had a lot of adventures in Wyoming in the mountains. I've been in blizzards and whiteouts and fell through a frozen lake on horseback up there. But then, that's one type of challenge. But then the other type of challenge would be what we talked about earlier: finding in myself the light communication, how to really carry on a small conversation with my horse all the time. To seek that state of bonding with the horse that's so close that it's just that you're just one with them and your thoughts are theirs. So that's really more of a challenge to me, and I think that's so much more important to me than winning any awards or ribbons or anything. It's just the pursuit of horsemanship as an art, and which was done in the 15 and 1600s, the golden age of horsemanship. Horsemanship and equitation were pursued as an art form, and I think we've gotten away from that in our pursuit of competition and winning and ribbons and money and all that. But an artist who paints a beautiful painting doesn't do that in order to enter the painting into an art show. He does it for the love of painting and for the beauty, for the art of it. And that's the way I think we should feel about our horses, is that we pursue riding and equitation and horsemanship as an art form for our own edification, not for show or to show off or to win anything, but just for the beauty of the art of riding.
That is beautiful. I have a question. I have seen what to me is a resurgence of what you just talked about, that people do seem to be more interested in the relationship and in lightness. And I'm not sure if it's just because the type of people that my particular show attracts, my radio show attracts, are those people, or if this idea really is becoming more common. You're much better traveled than I am. What do you think? Do you think it's becoming more common?
I do. I think the pendulum is definitely swinging towards lightness, and really, I believe that there is something beyond natural horsemanship. And for the last couple of decades, natural horsemanship seemed to be the answer, the end-all, cure-all of all horse problems. But I really feel that there's something else on the horizon, and that there is a place we can go that's beyond natural horsemanship. And I think that's just what you're talking about, is in the pursuit of more lightness and the pursuit of art and precision, refinement. It's what I call the 3 A's: authenticity, accuracy, and autonomy. And that's really what I want to give my horse is autonomy, self-carriage, that the horse thinks and carries himself with me, that I'm not having to hold him up with my hands and legs, but we're just moving together in the state of accuracy and autonomy, and that gives us authenticity.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. Wow, this has been just a fascinating discussion, and it gives me hope for the whole horse community and the horse industry that we are moving in this direction of of autonomy and communication and respect and trust. I think that is something that is so missing in other parts of our lives, that to be able to find that with our horses is such a gift. And I'm just honored to have some time to get to know you as an instigator and a catalyst for not just the United States, but now Europe as well, to bring about this kind of a change. So I'm honored and excited about the work you're doing. I hope our listeners can go see your website at eddabney.com. Now, I understand you have something that people might be able to email you to get your 6 Keys to Harmony, an e-report explaining what those are. Is that still available? Yes. I have a brief e-report that details the 6 Keys to Harmony and actually goes through your particular body position as you ask the horse for each exercise and what you should expect from them. So it's something that you might be able to get started with on the 6 Keys to Harmony, as something that we would like to do for your listeners. Okay, and where can they email you to get that? Ed at eddabney.com. Pretty simple. Okay, and at eddabney.com, and they can get the e-report 6 Keys to Harmony. If you do forget that, you can always email me at info@thewowfactorradio.com, and I will forward the emails to Ed. But that would be wonderful. I am going to be ordering your DVDs, but I'm anxious to read this report right away and throw away my sunglasses and do less, not more. I'm very excited to go try this. This is wonderful. Good. So, Ed, we are just about out of time, and I wanted to give you the opportunity, if you had anything in particular you wanted to share with our listeners. I think we've about covered it. I sure appreciate the opportunity to be on your program, and I admire it. I've been listening to them, and you do a wonderful job, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thank you. Well, thank you, Ed. I'm honored. And next time you see Craig Stevens, do say hi for us. He's going to be on our show again next month. I can't wait. He's so much fun. Good. And you've just been a delight. And thanks for the wonderful website with the very fun pictures. I'm sure if our listeners are also watching the slideshow with this production, they've seen some of them. But do go look at Ed's website at Ed Dabney. That's EDDABNEY.com. And you can get a view of all the things that Ed does. So keep up the good work and have a wonderful time in France. And tell your daughter I'm hoping she'll be on my show sometime soon. Okay, great. Okay, thank you, Ed. We'll talk to you soon. You've been listening to the Wow Factor Radio, and we'll be back next week at this same time. Thank you for joining us.